What's up, everybody? Welcome to CBS Sports HQ. It is Wednesday, September 24th. Welcome to a brand new hour of our show. I'm Haley Sutton. You'll meet my co-host in just a minute. But the Jaxson Dart era is set to unfold on Sunday on CBS. And his first start comes against the seventh best defense in the NFL, already 7 sacks on the season. So as we say welcome to the NFL, Jaxson, we also say welcome to our Jacqueline D'Agostino, who's got a little bit of a peek at what to expect in Dart's first start. Jack, what's up?
What's up, Haley? You know, we've been having this conversation for a while. When is Jaxson Dart going to come in for Russ Wilson? A lot of us thought it was going to be week 5 against the Saints because it felt like the only breath of fresh air for the Giants and that brutal strength of schedule, right? It's coming a little bit earlier. Week 4 here, as Haley mentioned, against the Chargers. That strength of schedule is absolutely no joke. Jaxson Dart, we know he had kind of a fantastic preseason, so we're trying to see if he can inject some life into this Giants offense, who desperately needs a win or some sort of momentum change as they sit at 0-3 on the season. So with that, let's welcome in our NFL on CBS reporter, Aditi Kinkhabwala. Aditi, great to see you, my friend. The Giants 0-3. Jaxson Dart, that is their new QB1, right? What can we expect for this Giants offense? Because we know the weapons are there. He's got Malik Neighbors. What can we expect for Jaxson Dart there as QB1 for the G-Men?
Well, can I be honest? I was there for training camp on day 2, and I wondered then why they weren't just starting Jaxson Dart. You could see his moxie, you could see his presence, you could see his personality, and the word that you just used, you could see his juice even then. So how did the Giants actually get here? I talked to Brian Daboll at length about why they brought in Russell Wilson. He obviously struggled at the close of the season last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He obviously struggled with Sean Payton in Denver. The Giants desperately needed some veteran leadership. Daniel Jones, their former quarterback, is not a rah-rah, let me run the room kind of guy. And the Giants are so young that Daboll felt Russell Wilson is a guy that has these rings, that has these pelts on the wall. He can get these young guys going. He can show them what leadership looks like. And that'll be a great start while Jaxson Dart gets acclimated to the NFL game, shows that he is indeed comfortable. Well, as you said, the Jaxson Dart era came earlier because who Russell Wilson was in Denver and who he was in Pittsburgh is exactly who he was in New York, which is a bit limited. And in Jaxson Dart, you have a young guy that this organization totally believes in, not only from a skill set perspective, but also from a personality point. Daboll said to me that Jaxson Dart is the type of guy who can get along with anyone, the guys that want to hunt and the guys that want to go dance in a club. He fits in, he relates, and he's not afraid. He is fearless out there on that field, and right now, this is a Giants team that needs an injection of energy and hope. And so get the young guy reps. You need to see if he's your guy, right?
Yeah, so you might as well do it sooner rather than later. We heard it, from the crowd. Every time Jaxson Dart came in that game, they were super pumped, and then we heard boos on the flip side for Russ. I want to talk about another rookie here in Ashton Jeanty. I know that you've covered games. You saw him for the Raiders and the Patriots firsthand, and he's averaging just under 3 yards per carry, so kind of off to a slow start here, right? It feels a little preliminary. Sorry, Aditi, but it feels like too soon.
It is a little bit early. So let's not overreact. This is my favorite line. We're only 3 weeks in. Let's not overreact just yet. But we can respond to this Raiders offensive line. And it's horrible. It is the worst run-blocking offensive line in the National Football League right now. They were absolutely pushed around last week. Now, they do expect to get Jackson Powers-Johnson this week when we see them, but nobody is being hit behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage more than Ashton Jeanty is. He is facing more stacked boxes than anybody in the National Football League, and his offensive line is not pushing anybody out of the way. So yes, Jeanty was brought in to be the bell cow. Hey, Max Crosby said that to us week 1 when we sat down with him. This is a young man that has a ton of confidence. He has faith in himself, but I'm really curious to talk to him this weekend at our production meetings to see, is he indeed getting frustrated? And what are the Raiders doing to help create some space for him? Because right now, there's none. And I can tell you, as good of a running back as he may be, as any running back may be, it all starts up front. And right now, the Raiders are not getting the job done up front.
And I think we have to keep in mind, he's a rookie. He's adjusting to the NFL. It is all new, and there's still a lot of football left to be played. Aditi, you covered the Texans and the Jags last week. The Texans are off to an 0-3 start to the season. They're dead last in the division. We know about the O-line problems, and we saw it firsthand, right? And this is a Texans offense that is dead last in points per game in the league. How do they fix that, or can they, when you're dealing with the O-line and all the injuries and everything that we've seen already with that?
Well, this is exactly the same story that we're talking about with the Raiders. Everything starts up front. It all goes to the offensive line. Are they giving C.J. Stroud enough time? Not from what we saw. Are they creating any room for Nick Chubb to run? No. And I'm going to take a little aside here. Nick Chubb is somebody that I've known since he came into the league. He is one of the best stories and absolutely one of the best workers in the National Football League. He suffered that devastating knee injury 2 seasons ago, week 2, right here in Pittsburgh. He spent all of that offseason rehabbing in Cleveland. Last year was never quite the same, but then this year, he's a full year removed from that. He got to go home to Cedartown, Georgia, where he has spent every single offseason. He trained there to get into football shape. He told me mentally that was so good for him. He said that all of the tests, all of the metrics that he judges himself by, that's weights and that's speed tests, are exactly where they were before he hurt the knee. He said this offseason was about getting his confidence back, about getting over the mental hump that he still believed in himself. And he does. And he swears that he's not any slower. And when I asked head coach DeMeco Ryans about this, he said, don't doubt Nick Chubb, which is what I've been told my entire NFL career with him. But the poor guy has no place to run, Jacqueline. This offensive line is creating no space whatsoever at all. And so DeMeco Ryans says that this offense needs to get going by leaning into the run game and leaning into Nick Chubb. But how do you lean into Nick Chubb when Nick Chubb is given no room to run? And then beyond that, of course, you have a new first-time offensive coordinator in Nick Caley. The operation is still a little bit slow, still a little bit sloppy. You feel like C.J. Stroud doesn't quite have the answers that you'd like him to have. He insisted to us this past week in our meetings that he likes the process, and part of this slow ramp up is the risk. That's the word he used, the risk that you take when you install a new offense and hire a new offensive coordinator. But Jacqueline, nobody's waiting on the Texans to catch up. So even though I'm saying let's not overreact 3 weeks in, you need to feel some urgency and get this thing fixed.
Yeah, because we know the statistics and what they are when you start 0-3, and your chances of even making the playoffs at that point, it really, really diminishes. Now, meanwhile, the Jags, they're sitting at 2-1. Aditi, I don't know if you know this, I grew up about 45 minutes south of Duval County, so I've been brainwashed from birth to love the Jacksonville Jaguars, and boy, do I. I am so excited. Tell us about the culture shift, everything that you've noticed, because obviously it's wishful thinking for me, right? But you were there on the sideline, so what did you experience just from, a front office perspective?
Lean into it. Feel good about it. I'll tell you, Trevor Lawrence and Josh Hines Allen, who have been through all of the upheaval over the last however many years, both said to us, it feels like a completely brand new organization. And that's because of the leadership from top down. So let's start with my walking onto the practice field Friday. And what do I see? President Tony Boselli, who of course is a Jaguars legend, and new GM James Gladstone tossing a football around. Then what do I see? The two of them next to each other for the entire practice, talking constantly, other than when Tony Boselli went over to talk to my analyst, Adam Archuleta, and James Gladstone came to catch up with me a little bit. Let's start with Gladstone, because this was such an interesting hire, right? Everyone is wondering, who is this young guy? He looks so unassuming. Where did he come from? This is maybe my favorite story of the season so far. James Gladstone grew up in St. Louis, the son of a high school football coach. He never wanted anything more in life other than to be a high school football coach and a gym teacher. And you know what he said to me? He still hasn't gotten to be the gym teacher. His first year out of college, he went to his alma mater. He became the school librarian, coached football. Then the next year, he went to another high school to coach with his father. And that is where he started coaching Rams GM Les Snead's son. Les Snead took such an interest in James Gladstone, so enjoyed the conversations that he had with him about leadership, about football, about strategy, that when the Rams were moving to LA, Les said to James, "Why don't you come with me?" Random aside, and I need to text Kara Henderson about this, James Gladstone says that he thinks it's Kara Henderson, Les's wife, who convinced Les to hire him. But in any case, James goes to Los Angeles. He starts as Les Snead's executive assistant, and a snap later, he's running scouting strategy, and he's running personnel. And then Liam Cohen, of course, had 2 shifts with the Rams. And he said the second time that he was with the Rams, he was so blown away by the way that James was acting as a conduit between the coaching staff, because remember, he grew up the son of a coach and he always aspired to be a coach, and the scouting department. And that his method of communicating with people, his method of leadership, so struck him that when Liam got that job in Jacksonville, he immediately wanted James Gladstone aboard. So now you have Tony Baselli taking a lot off of James Gladstone's plate and off of Liam Cohen's plate. You have these 3 men who look at football the same way, who believe in the same central philosophy, which is being more physical than anybody else. And you have a unified message. The biggest thing is that when I'd ask Gladstone if he misses working with the young men directly, he said that will come. But right now, this organization has for so long gotten mixed messages that it's really important that the messaging comes from the coaching staff and the coaching staff alone. And so that's why the 3 of them working together is so great. And they allow Liam Cohen to dispense the message. And it really does feel like a culture shift. I can say that. It's a very physical team. It's a team that knows how to pick each other up. We saw that in the way Josh Hines-Allen and Trevor Lawrence talked to me in the aftermath of that game. And I know we've said this before. We said it that first year with Doug Peterson. But Jacqueline, I am giving you permission to believe in this team and jump on board.
I mean, Josh Hines-Allen, Trevor Lawrence, they said they're a family, and Gladstone we trust, baby. I love him even more now, from a librarian to where he is. Aditi, that was such a cool story. Thank you so much for sharing it. Amazing insight, as always, and the NFL on CBS has got you covered, of course, for Week 4, 4:25 Eastern. That is what we are all circling, the Ravens and the Chiefs, and then, of course, you can catch Aditi on the sidelines for the Bears and the Raiders in that same slate.